Dan Ullman, Mike Beer for the DRF.com Formulator Race of the Day. It's the Grade 2 National Museum of Racing Hall of Fame Stakes at 1 1/16 on the turf. Let's take a look at this field of 3-year-olds. This is a barn burner.
Yeah, they pulled together quite a few for this. There's only a Grade 2. There are horses of better quality than that in this field. It's wide open. There are just way too many different horses you can make cases for in here.
Let's just hope this race stays on the turf. We're expecting some rough weather in New York over the weekend up in Saratoga Springs, but this just looks like a sensational betting race. And you've got horses coming out of two separate races really that dominate this race. Horses coming out of the Manila, $100,000 listed stakes on the 4th of July, and the Grade 1 Belmont Derby on July the 8th. Do you have a preference for one race over the other, or you just handicap them from a specific nature?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about either of those races. I sort of felt like, rather than just take one race over the other, I just sort of wanted maybe one horse out of each race over the others. That's how I sort of looked at it, as far as the Manila goes, and we got 3 of them out of that. I kind of only wanted Big Handsome, and I didn't want the winner of that race, Bricks and Mortar, and I certainly didn't want Secretary of War, who felt like he had all the best of it on a loose lead there.
Remember, free Formulator past performances available on the Race of the Day event page. Download them, handicap along with us. Let's begin with Bricks and Mortar and Big Handsome coming out of the Manila Stakes. Let's get our usual Chad Brown positive Formulator fact out of the way with Bricks and Mortar. Past 3 years, last out winning 3-year-old turf riders, making the 3rd start after a 45-day layoff for greater 60%. 346. Bricks and Mortar and Big Handsome, I think you both argue, didn't have the cleanest of trips in the Manila. Bricks and Mortar was last on the rail turning into the stretch. At just the right time, Joel Rosario was able to alter course sharply to the outside. And this horse came with a good run late. I think you can make the argument, though, that if Big Handsome, who got the jump on Bricks and Mortar from the pocket, wasn't stymied, he wins.
I think that's probably right. That's how I looked at it. And that doesn't mean that Bricks and Mortar is not a good horse. He's a good horse. He's 3 for 3 lifetime. All of his races are good, and he's got the right trainer. He's got a great post on the inside. There are a lot of things to like about him. It just sort of feels like he's probably not any better than Big Handsome is at this point. And certainly he isn't based off their last race. I think he's the morning line favorite in this race, and it's Chad, so you know you're not getting the right price on him. I would just much rather have Big Handsome this time.
Let's take a look at the Timeform US Pace Projector, because Big Handsome has made most of his hay in sprints. It was nice to see him right in the pocket last time out until the trouble trip. This time around, our friends at Timeform US believe that Javier Castellano realizes Bricks and Mortar is not a speed horse to his inside. If he wants the lead, he can get it.
Yeah, he's definitely fast enough to get it if they want to ride him that way. And it's sort of interesting to look at his last 2 races where they didn't go for it, just because they went from 6 to 7 in the Paradise Creek, and it almost felt like, well, is he going to want to take on an added furlong? Who knows? He actually rated very nicely in that race, and he crushed that field through the stretch. I loved the way that he finished in there, and then he rated again last time, and I feel like he probably would have won that race if he didn't get stuck in traffic. So I think you're starting to get the idea now that distance is no problem for him, and maybe that gives Castellano the confidence to just put him on the front here.
He has a couple of figs 2 and 3 back that make him very tough in here. Those races, of course, sprinting. Caviar Czar, the number 3, is a main track only entrant, would certainly benefit if this race is taken off the turf and the race is destroyed by scratches. The 4 is Yoshida. Yoshida, after he won his maiden at Keeneland, after he won the Murphy, he was the bee's knees. He was going to be the best 3-year-old turf horse in the country. And in the Belmont Derby, it just didn't happen. What happened in that race? I mean, there wasn't a lot of pace going on, and I think in a perfect world, John Velasquez would have wanted this horse to be covered up as much as possible, and he ended up 3 wide and in the clear from about a half mile out, but I'm not sure that excuses the punch. I think the mile and a quarter is a little too far.
Maybe the distance was a little too far, and you're right, he was sort of in that 3 wide uncovered trip the entire way, and maybe that didn't work out for him. I'll also just sort of, at least when I looked at it, just sort of when you watch that race, and the pace was slow, Oscar Performance, the horses ran 2nd and 3rd. They all sort of stayed towards the inside and rallied up the rail. He was never near the rail. Even some other horses from further behind just sort of stayed towards the inside and made runs, and nobody on the outside did anything. That includes him and a horse we'll get to in a minute, Arkla, who was just always wide and didn't run. So maybe that's an excuse too. I don't know, Dan. He didn't run great last time. I thought he'd run better than that. But I do know that his first 2 turf starts, I think anyway, are legitimately good. I mean, he was really impressive in those races.
Very visually impressive. It is far too early to give up on this horse. You might get a playable price. He's 7-2 on the morning line. And he just finished behind Good Samaritan in the Belmont Derby. You came back to switch to dirt and win the Jim Dandy with a 100-buyer. Snap Decision, I've always liked him a little bit more than you. He got a very nice trip last time out at Belmont, and a non-winner's a one other then, where he just sat behind a moderate pace, angled out, not a stone in his path, and he won. He's going to have to do it a much harder way this time around.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with him. He clearly has some ability. I don't think he's that good. I don't like the field that he beat last time. I know Hieroglyphics came back and won at Saratoga last weekend. He didn't beat the greatest field in the world, and he did it with a perfect trip. This horse is fine. I just don't like him in this race.
I think you and I will disagree on the 6 Macarios. I think he's dirtied up. I think he was compromised by no pace and Oscar performance in his last 2 races. Certainly the Pennine Ridge. A race where there's no pace whatsoever. I think Angel Arroyo rightly tried to get him into the race a little bit early, and that's not Macarios' game. And in the Belmont Derby, I mean, for the most part, he was down closer to the inside, probably never further away than the two-path until the stretch. He was running at the end of that race, despite the lack of pace. I think he's a little bit better than how he looks on paper. The problem is he's always going to be at the mercy of the pace. Give him a fair pace. I think he's got an outside shot here at a big price.
Yeah, the question is, will he get one? I agree with you. I don't know how this race will be run. I don't know why you would think we disagree about this horse. I really like this horse. I'm a really big fan of his. I thought he ran great in the Pennine Ridge. He had some really tricky trouble in that race and lost all chance in the upper stretch. He actually ran really well that day. And I don't mind them going shorter with him here, because maybe he will catch a more legitimate pace this time. I'm definitely using this horse at a price.
The number 7 Bonus Points is maybe the only horse in the race where it's hard to make a true case for. He's getting blinkers for the first time. It is Todd Pletcher. If you can't beat Just Howard, though, in the Maryland-bred company last time out, how are you beating this field?
Yeah, he does seem like the one horse in here who it's pretty tough to make a case for. And that's, it's Pletcher, too. I just can't like this horse.
The number 8 Parlor, his last 2 wins couldn't be more visually impressive. The win at Tampa Bay, the non-winners of one other than race, where he just, he split a big hole, everything worked out. Jock never asked him. Last time out, he's 1-2, and he ran like a 1-2 shot, where Julian Leparoux took him widest into the stretch, and he couldn't have won any easier. And I think he's the kind of horse that's going to bully around fields like that. But when you step him up against tougher horses, maybe it's not good enough. That Arlington Classic, he moved too soon.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't give up on him just yet as a stakes horse, because I do think he has the right amount of ability to be a stakes horse, that's for sure. I think you're kind of right about that, Arlington. First of all, it was yielding turf, which you didn't have to love, and I think he went too soon that race, and it cost him. Class drop obviously helped him last time, but he was impressive again. I like this horse. I have a little thing for him. I'm not going to be surprised if he can go with stakes horses.
He's not a good gate horse. Be wary. He doesn't break. It's possible he'll be lingering near the back, and like Macarios and a couple others, will need some pace to help set him up. Now, Secretary of War, you're right. In the Manila, he had everything his own way, just going 47-4 to the half, and on a pretty clear and uncontested lead. And Bricks and Mortar and Big Handsome, they had lengths more trouble than this horse. They outfinished him late. I think this horse has ability, but he's going to be on the chase according to the Timeform U.S. pace projector. I don't like that trip for him at all.
I don't like that trip for him either. We'll see. He's pretty good. And maybe Big Handsome and Castellano, maybe they won't. Maybe he'll be trying to get the pocket again and let this horse clear. It would help him. His turf races are fine. The Pennine Ridge, you can just sort of put a line through. He got the wrong ride that day, where they just wrangled him back off of Oscar Performance for some reason. Based on the races that he's run so far, I just feel like he's in a little tough here.
I think the 10 Arklow is a sneaky horse for a very good trainer in Brad Cox. His first 2 turf races were good. He beat a nice horse in McCormick in that maiden run at Keeneland, where he got a nice pace set up. Then in the American turf, he took the measure of Good Samaritan, and I liked the way he won that race. He might have been helped by off going, and that's certainly possible at Saratoga on Friday.
That's true.
In the Belmont Derby, I think Mike Smith realized there's no pace here. Let me pull an Abel Tasman. And he tried to get this horse into the race on the outside, which might not have been the best place, and he tired very badly. I'm willing to give him a mulligan for that one.
Yeah, I want to put a line through that race, too. He's not that bad. I don't know if he's this good. This is a good field. I don't know if he's this good.
But the price will be right.
But he might be, and he'll be a price. And I don't think the last race isn't the race to judge him off of.
This is really a fun race. And let's take a look at our selections. We can go so many different ways in the Hall of Fame. You're giving Yoshida another chance in here. You're going 4, 2, and 6. I'm going 1, 6, 4, and 2. I almost made Macarios my top selection. Bricks and Mortar, while Big Handsome sort of, he had more trouble, I still think Bricks and Mortar did a lot of firing in the stretch. Far behind down inside, had to alter course and run a little sideways in mid-stretch, and then once he got straightened out, he ran. Chad kills your price.
It does.
But bricks and mortar, I think, fits in here. But this is a spread. Again, 426 for Mike, 164-2 for me in the Grade 2 Hall of Fame. If you are playing the race, the card from home, DRF Bets is where you need to go because you'll have access to a 10% win place takeout on 10 select tracks, including the spot, plus a $300 sign-up bonus. Learn more at drf.com/take10. Approximate post time for a good running of the Hall of Fame, 5:40 Eastern. Best of luck.